imagine, if we can we please imagine that we are able to have a life reset? How powerful and incredible would that be? We have the capacity to change every day, every minute, to reproduce new neurons until our last day that we live on this earth. Let's imagine that today for all of us who are on the show and for all of you guys out there listening. This is Sunny Chayes. It's a Sunny Chayes show. It's Wednesday. It's a beautiful day. And I have an incredible guest, actually two guests. And our first guest who we're going to introduce, John's going to bring on, is Dr. Foojan Zeine. And she wrote the book, Life Reset. So let's just bring her on, John, shall we? And then I'm going to, there's mad applause in the background. So I just want you to know. And I want to say a little bit about you, and you guys know how it is. We like to just drop things in as we go along, you know, that you had lunch with whoever and did whatever. But I love that. I just love your story. I think we'll just get right to it. I mean, of course, she's an amazing person, and there are many, many attributes she has and many, many accomplishments she has, and we'll chat about them as we go along. But I would just love to welcome you to our show and to our viewers.
Thank you. Thank you. It is
Pleasure.
an honor to be here. It's a joy to be with all of you and your listeners. And
thank you.
hopefully, they're going to be moved and touched and inspired to reset their life or continue their life and hold gratitude for who they are and all that they have.
Well, it's so perfect that you're on the show today because I just came back from Cancun for 5 days, and I was with the amazing Dr. Sue Morter, and it was a very intensive 5 days. Not the drinking and partying in that way at all. We were up at 5:15, on the beach at 5:30, allowing the waves to just basically wash over us, through us, in us, around us for an hour, and then doing yoga for an hour, and then doing workshops and dancing and connecting in such a way. And so to take a vacation, I like that word. I want to play with that with you because the word vacation is to vacate. Right. And so I realized that we had the opportunity, we all do when we take a vacation, is that we vacate many of the things that we have in our lives. We don't have our same bed. We don't have our same food. We mostly don't have our same people around us. We may not have the same language or cultures or customs. And so we let go of a lot of what's in our home, what's in our life. And I was thinking how awesome it would be when I came back to be able to re-choose the things in my life that I want to re-choose and let go of the things I don't. And so I actually did. I just woke up on Tuesday morning and I said, okay, what do I actually, okay, son, come on, you got to do something different today. And normally I turn on TV and have good, AM Los Angeles on or Good Morning America. And it was like, no, let's just be quiet. Let's have coffee. Let's do different things. And it was great fun. And it just allowed me to sink into that I can re-choose every minute, every day. So, Life Reset Queen, do jump in.
I love what you said. And I think that we take ourselves everywhere. So it's not, although we go on vacation, who do we take with us? Mm-hmm. Our mind, our heart, our emotions, and our behaviors. We all go together.
And our soul.
And our soul. So then the conversation becomes, even if we were going to vacate, wouldn't that be nice to just kind of also at times vacate what's going on as a pattern of thinking and feeling and behaving in a way in our brain and choose again. Mm-hmm. Choose what are the, belief systems that are just not working for us anymore. They're just old. Like we picked them up when we were 5, but can we just set them down again and choose, as for me as a 56-year-old, I should choose right now what it is that I want to create even in my mind as a thought process. Because we all also have automatic thoughts, but we choose which one we put a lot of focus on. Mm-hmm. So when we focus on the thoughts that are working for us, on the patterns that are working for us, even on emotions, sometimes anger is useful when I need to take care of myself and protect myself. But if I, sit there all day being pissed off at somebody, that's just not good. I remember once I was driving and I was just driving and my hands were going like this. And then I realized I'm fighting in my head with a person who's not even there. It's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. So I got it that at that moment, the anger was useless at the moment I was experiencing it. So choose out.
Yeah, and when you were saying your age and all that, I was thinking, yeah, now even more so is a time to allow ourselves to re-choose and re-choose, because we do have perhaps some habits. And I was going to read at some point some beautiful stuff from Michel Pascal. You guys know he was on my show about a month ago, and he is an amazing monk who studied with the Dalai Lama, and he's just a crack up. And he was talking about, I mean, he's just the funniest, greatest guy. I just love this man so much. And he, in his book, he wrote this book, and it sounds very sort of normal, Meditation for Daily Stress, 10 practices, but reading it is so great. And I may read a few things from it. One of the things he says is in a lot of the ashrams, people don't sit and meditate the way that the Western world sort of thinks. And it may be 1 minute here, 1 minute there. And what Dr. Sue was talking about, which I really loved, is we talk about there's kind of an expression we use in the New Thought world, oh, we're the ones we've been waiting for. And she shifted that and said, what I love this, we are the mind that is looking for us. In other words, our mind is looking for our soul, and we're already here. And our mind, we've sort of given to the driver's seat, or given the power. And yet the mind is just a servant. And we have become the sort of slaves that are enslaved to the servants. So we really, really do have the opportunity to say, shut up.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Sonny, sometimes there are people who their emotion is in the driver's seat, and their logic and their wisdom and mind somehow doesn't show up, even because they're mood oriented and their whole life is based on how I feel right now, and let my emotion just run my show, and have whatever comes out of my mouth to come out of my mouth, and that's what ruins a lot of the relationships.
Yeah.
Or you see people who are so action oriented, then they shut down their mind and even their emotion, and they're just running like a machine.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, at age 60, they show, it's like, what happened? What happened to my relationships? Who am I even? What's going on with me? So it's.
But don't you find that when you were saying shut down the mind, I mean, that sort of doesn't really happen. I mean, meaning the mind is running the person to be running around and doing a lot of stuff. So I feel like the area where we can really have some discipline, which is great. And Michel was actually talking about that. He was talking about the discipline of happiness. And I love that concept, guys. Let's think of the discipline of happiness. And again, in our country, we think of discipline a little bit, or in the Western culture, as being sort of a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing. No. And I thought, well, that is such a great idea. Like, just let us have, I mean, we have the discipline of taking a shower every day, or different things that we do, and the actual choosing happiness.
Right. Choosing the belief systems and thoughts, choosing the emotions. Maybe you could choose happiness. You could be responsible about constantly having positive thoughts and emotions, and doing things that creates happiness for you and others around you, which as a feedback loop keeps coming back to you. And choosing actions and behaviors, and knowing the impact that you also have around the world. We're not alone. We all together. Everything we do impacts each other. So knowing the impact of all of these three, the thought, the emotion, and the behavior, will allow us to co-create with people, co-create with life as it comes to us, in a way that we're consistently resetting our life. Although a lot of our world comes from our subconscious, but the responsibility of being conscious of the subconscious, looking at these three pieces, I think that it really supports us to consistently choose a life that we create and we say we want, and we're responsible and accountable for.
Well, and yes, and I when I saw the title of your book, and your publicist sent this to me, Life Reset, the Awareness Integration Path to Create the Life You Want, luckily we're learning on so many levels that we can recreate everything all the time, that we do have control over our photons. We do have that gift. I don't even want to say ability, because we absolutely have the ability, and we can use it as a gift to absolutely know that we can re-heal our skin, we can re-heal our organs, we can re-heal our hearts, we can work, we have we're giving you guys permission today to remember that you can do that. And we should be, I don't like to use the word should very often, but why not? Why not? Why not have the discipline of happiness?
So there's an intentionality that comes. So there's a beauty in creating that intentionality. But then a lot of times, you know what happens, Sunny? We create intentionality. We say, I'm going to intend to do this. I'm going to set up to do this, right? And then I start with the thought, with the emotion, with the behavior, and then the result doesn't turn out. And so then we might get disappointed. So the point is to, again, look at the impact and go back and look at the distinctions between these three. We usually kind of clump them, the thought, the emotion, and behavior, and yes, they are working consistently together, but the ability to know which one is which, it really helps us that when we don't get the result that we intended to get, to go back and look at which one of these things, whether it was the thought or the emotion or the behavior, that needed to be tweaked, that somehow another part of us, which is not whole and integrated, kind of like came in and, you know, sabotage or hijack the show.
Right.
Although this is a part of me said this is what I intend to do, and how to bring all of those together and bring all of us to intend and move forward with consistently watching in how it goes, so that we could come back and repath and reset our path toward getting that intention.
And of course, we're in the spiral, so
Yes.
we're not in a merry-go-round, thank God.
Yes.
Otherwise, that would just be so not fun.
Yeah.
I love some of these, I love all of your chapter titles, With a Free Mind and a Heart of Love, the Awareness, Integration, Return Journey. So I love that concept. And when you're talking about now we are shaping an identity from a much broader pool of understanding and intentionality. We are just so much more conscious of how we want to live. And I think I've talked a lot about this on the show, and I've talked a lot about this to myself, about Sonny, what do you really want? Like, what do you really want? And of course, Abraham Hicks will talk about the contrast, and, you know, we think of that and what's going on in the world right now, and we're seeing most probably everyone who listens to my show seeing a lot that we don't want. And so what is it that we do want? And finding a way to get to, first of all, what's true in our own lives, and really, really be in integrity. And I was noticing with me when I was doing the work with Dr. Sue, there were a few areas where I didn't really feel completely happy and free and safe. And I was able to let go of a lot of things that were filling me with fear or just kind of creating fear. And I realized, part of it was where I was not feeling in myself that I was in complete integrity, so that I felt like the bear could come and get me and eat me up because I was not in complete integrity. And so for me to really look at that and tell the truth to myself, is there a way I can shift that? Yes. Yes, there is always a way. How do I want to shift that? When do I want to shift that? And get to it and do it. And the ease and the happiness that I felt after I did a bit of scrubbing and cleaning and you know, kind of working with what I'm up to, made me feel so much more at peace and so much more safe in myself. And so I know that I'm more safe to be around. Right? I mean,
Very
you would
much.
know this being the doctor that you are, that when we're around people who are filled up, or I'll just let you talk to that.
Very much. What you said about integrity is very, very true. A lot of the time, we all mean well. It's just that because we're not integrated and all of our parts are not part of our awareness, although we want something, it comes in hijacks. I've watched myself, Sunny, that I say I want to cut sugar. I don't want to use it. I'm intending not to use it. And by the time I'm saying this, my left hand is picking up something and putting it in my mouth, and I'm sitting there justifying how it just happened. And I've watched so many people be so split in my 25 years of being a psychotherapist, where they go into relationships and they're very committed, and they do these hanky-panky, and then they lose their mate in an affair, and they sit there bawling that what happened, I have no idea. And they really don't. I mean, there's some justifications to it, but they're so split off. Every one of us, as we grow up, we get split off. So I think this way of coming together creates that integrity for all of us, in order to be able to, when we make a decision and we want to create something, that all of us is making that decision. Because if we don't, a part comes and sabotages.
Well, is it possible that so if we have a number of parts to us, I believe that we have an orchestrator, a
Yes.
conductor,
Yes.
shall we say,
A puppet
that would
master. Yeah.
perhaps be the soul. And again, what I loved about what Dr. Sue said and what I was saying in the beginning of the show about our soul is really home. That's the energy of love, peace, humanity. And it's all there. It's all complete. It's done. It's it's all cooked and baked and all that. And then the mind and other elements are the ones that are sort of the children, or the little bushes in the forest. So if we're really, really truthful, that's why I was back to the integrity. If we're really tuning into our soul, if we're really allowing our soul to run the show, which the soul does run the show anyway, then the truth of doing the hanky-panky or doing the thing is we don't have to deal with every bit of us if we concentrate on the most powerful
Yes, but
part of
sometimes
us. Is
the
that
mind
true
is
or no?
very loud. It's very loud. Sometimes the emotions are very loud.
Having it be quiet.
Yes. So the conversation of
Quiet.
freeing the mind, as you were reading the chapter, freeing the mind usually creates that heart of love and soulfulness. But the key is, how do you free the mind? I was working with a Buddhist monk, and one of the conversation was it was much easier to be in an ashram away from everybody to be able to free the mind instead of being in the middle of New York or Los Angeles honking and then somebody coming in front of you and trying to do that. So it's that piece of the ability of every moment to free the mind.
Okay, so I'm going to even up-level the free the mind,
Okay.
because the mind is going to do the mind thing.
Yes.
I am noticing that I am much more able to see what my mind is doing.
Yes.
And say, oh
If
my
you're-
God.
Yeah. If you could,
I
if
really,
you're not
really am
connect-
so much
yeah.
better with that.
Yeah, if
And
you're
then
not
I can
connected
see
to
the
it.
fear coming in. And like, for example, when I was on the trip, I was gone for 5 days. And every once in a while, I would have a fear of what's happening at home. Are the kids okay? I have international students. Are they I was having, and then I just kept telling myself, son, it's all great. It's all great. It's all great. And I was able to bring myself back to joy. And then little bits would come up and a little fear. I'd feel it, the energy. And I just watched it and said, I'm not allowing it.
Right.
So I think
there needs to be this connection.
I think that freeing the mind, it feels like such an almost impossibility. But I think if we look at it and call it out, it's like, okay, I see you over there or in here, wherever wherever the mind actually is. We're still working on that one, because it's not up here. We call it out and we say we see you.
Yeah, there is a way of freeing it. Not that it has nothing in it. It's not the zero sum. It's the freeing it of that means you're not caught in it.
Right.
So the minute that you have some sort of a space and you're not completely into it, and then that space allows you to watch it move.
Right.
But if you get caught, and usually there's some sort of belief or an emotion that gets you caught, and then you're caught, so you can't be moving. And that's where a lot of times we just have learned to shift out of it. But my point in this book is you can't just keep shifting out of it without cleaning and healing it.
Right.
Because it keeps coming. And if you really want to free it, can we just go and once and for all clean it up? Because if it's clean, there's nothing else to bubble up. But if I keep just watching it and say, oh, I know where it's coming from, but don't worry about it, let's just shift. The energy that takes to consistently for this stuff to come up and for us to shove it aside, that still takes a lot of energy.
Right. And I'm not suggesting we shove anything aside.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that most of the time what comes up with the mind is not real. Anyway.
Or the reality we create at that moment. Because
Right, like
we
I'm
all
saying,
create
I had
something,
fear
yeah.
about stuff that was happening at
Yeah.
home and none of it was happening.
Yes.
So I was creating a reality for 30 seconds or 60
Yes.
seconds or 3 minutes that did not actually exist in the world except
Yeah.
in my mind.
Exactly.
And so so that's why I feel like I can just tell that it's like changing the channel or
Yes.
changing the TV show. I don't want to see that because it's actually not reality. But I'm creating it to have some sort of substance of reality in that moment because it has reality to me and I'm having a physiological reaction.
Yes.
As
So
well
the
as a not happy feeling. So
Right,
I
the
feel like,
physiological reaction, if we can also, as it says in the book, it gives you an exercise in how to go through your body and through the mind and through the emotion, and all together go and find the memory, the original memory that we created that reality with. And I think that has been so different than everything else that I've done, even with memory work or trauma work, because you bring all three of them in.
Right.
And then when you go to the original one and you let go of shifting the reality from that source, not just as an adult source, but also the time you did it, then it kind of goes away and you don't have it ever come back again.
well, it takes the charge out of it.
Yes.
One of the things that we did this weekend that was really powerful was we did a thing called Circle Circle. I don't know if you've ever done that exercise, but it's where, well, you have a number of people and you have a number of people and you're telling your story and you're telling your story 4 different ways.
Yes.
And it was really, really wonderful because while the stories were happening, I haven't done enough work with Dr. Sue to know that she always changes it up.
Yes.
So I was getting prepared while I was listening to the story of the other person. First they said it, and they were crying, and it was their really sad story. Then they were meant to say it as a comedy. Then they were meant to bark it as a dog.
Yes.
Then they were meant to sing it as an opera. And so I was listening, and I was also preparing myself a little bit of like, how am I going to be when I do it? And then when it was my turn to do it, she had all different plans, which I was like, this all rocks, because I can't land anywhere, which is really great. Having the story, I mean, that's the thing, like you're saying, that these different areas where we may be upset, or for me to be a little upset about, leaving the students, I may have had an experience where I left and it wasn't great. So I'm going back to 3 years ago as opposed to being in my now place where I've created much more stability when I leave anyway. So the reality is not even the same. But the story could be, I can keep telling that same story. So I feel like also, playing with our story, or again, we rewrite our stories. I mean, in my family, there's 6 kids. I mean, I have 5 brothers and sisters, and all of our stories are so completely different. You would not even imagine we were in the same, well, in the same sort of culture. I mean, we're so different. So it's a story called a story. It's not even really reality.
So some of it has to do with the story that we make. Another part of it has to do with the identity that we created for ourselves in that story.
Right.
That's the one we carry.
Yes.
So although we're changing the story about the world and who and everything, we've got to make sure that we also shift the story that we made up about us consistently.
Yes.
Because that's the one we run with.
Super fun to do. Oh my God. It's like, oh man. What is that story that we have of ourselves? And just at least play with it, guys. Just play with it. It's not like we're asking you to completely
And
change
upgrade
your identity, tomorrow. But just kind of look and say, really? Now, there's a story, speaking of a story, I want you to tell. And then in a minute, John, I want to bring Jeralyn on to join us. I want you to briefly tell us the story of the ant.
Oh. One day I woke up and there were a couple of ants, and I was very loving, and I brought
like little ants,
little
not
ants.
Relatives.
And then yes, the
It's
animal.
radio. Sometimes
so
people
I
don't
brought a little bit of paper, and I put the ants, and I thanked them, and I said, "This is my surrounding, and I love you, but I'm going to put you outside to find your own surrounding." So then I went, the next morning, and I'm so proud of myself for being such an animal lover. So then the next morning I wake up, it's not only 3 of them, Sonny, it's about thousands of them all over the place. And then suddenly I found this rage. And so I told them, I would stand beside them and I said, I've given you a chance, I'm giving you one more chance to leave. And if you don't leave, then somebody's got to win here. So I go and take a shower and I come back. Well, obviously, they didn't leave. And then I find myself going and getting the Clorox and Windex and going to war with these ants. And it's like I'm cleaning up this whole place and this is my house. So as I'm doing this, suddenly I looked at myself and I thought, what happened to me? I'm the same Foojan. These are ants. Yesterday I was so loving with them. And then suddenly I'm going at it and even justifying when I told you so. And, obviously this is suicide for you if you want. And I'm coming up with all these stories. And I just stood there and I'm like, wow. what happened that I changed from that loving person to a person who just wanted to create distinction, like war here. And then I looked at the, marriages, which I work with, where at the beginning they're all in love, and then they go through divorce. They go after each other's throat, like kill off everything. And then I looked at, the essence of what we have even with immigrants, because I'm an immigrant, obviously, looking at all these messages of, oh, we got to help, we got to do this, we cannot handle, any human being on the face of the earth to be going through being killed. And then suddenly there's, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million from immigrants coming out to our country, and they're like, no, stop, we can't handle it, go back. And then, we're creating all of these messages that are so nasty, let's say, about it. And then I came to the question of what happens in each one of us, where we're all capable of loving, we're all capable of this amazing gracefulness, and then yet we're all capable of, killing and destruction. And each person has a place in them that switches off. And I think that knowing what it is that switches me off, then I can keep working on it and maybe expanding that compassion and tolerance. And maybe I create another reality and not have the same way of feeling threatened that I have to keep going into the space of war.
Wow. Thank you so much for tying in your aunt's story with the immigrant situation that we're in right now. And I think part of it is a feeling of, being out of control.
Yeah.
And if you want to share, and then in just a couple of minutes, I want to bring Jeralyn in to share her life reset story. But I want, if you can, to tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. I was born in Iran, and then I came here when I was 12 and a half to a boarding school. And I was one of the gifted children, so I went to college about 15. And one of the most amazing stories is at 15, I had nobody here. And they had sold my dormitory at ASU to somebody else. So I had to go get a hotel, and they're like, you're 15. I'm like, yeah, but I'm alone. So they gave me a hotel room. And then after 1 week, I wanted to get an apartment. Well, you're 15. You can't sign a contract. I know, but I'm alone. So this gentleman with his mother gave me the apartment, gave me a lease, came with me to Kmart. I was in Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. Bought everything with me. And then I went to the bank and I said, I have a check from Iran. So what do I do? Like, 15. We need somebody to sign for you. I don't have any. So they opened up a bank. They gave me a Visa card. Things that at this moment, if I tell you, there's no way that can be done again. So it was a journey of like loving and trusting, a blind trust that I had, that I just jumped in. And so many beautiful people who just came in and helped to raise me to here.
That's it's so beautiful. And the concept of resetting our lives, it feels like a huge theme to me right now, because I feel like there is so much pain. There's so much, there's just so much angst that goes on with us. And there's so much buy-in to that, look what's happening in the world, or, oh, I'm getting older and I'm getting more feeble, or I'm getting less agile, or I'm getting, I can't see as well, or all these, again, stories that we tell ourselves because it's what we consider reality. And that's why I do this show. One of the things is to myth bust and to show another way, or have you guys show another way. And so another way shower will be our beautiful Jeralyn Glass, who's going to come on right now. And Jeralyn has a beautiful, amazing voice, an incredible story of music that's taken her all around the world. Well, her voice has taken her all around the world. And then she had an experience in her life that I think she's going to share with us. So, John, are we going to bring on Jeralyn? Thank you so much. Hi, Jeralyn. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a great joy. And
just lean over, move your chair over, get in front of it, get all cozy.
I got my bowls here, so they're
and with you. Yeah, bring it in. Bring the mic in. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're all good?
I'm good.
So tell us your story, girl.
Pleasure to be here.
Or anything you want to say.
So many years ago, Ed Casey said, sound will be the medicine of the future. And I've always been involved in music from the time that I was a little girl. I knew that I wanted to sing, and I knew that part of my life's purpose was to share joy inspiration, communicate with love and kindness through music, and that music was to be the vehicle. And spent my life first on Broadway and then in Europe doing classical music. And so sound and music has always been my language. And I heard these incredible crystal bowls 10 years ago. I'd like to share a little bit. Is that okay?
Before you do, yes, you're going to definitely do that because we definitely want to do that. Do you want to share a little bit about your son first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I found these crystal bowls about 10 years ago, and I heard someone play them, and I had no idea, coming from traditional music, I just knew that they touched me so deeply and that I had to own some of the bowls. So I bought a set of the bowls. I took them back with me to Germany where I was living, and I'm also a professor and an opera singer, and I was working with my students with the bowls. So I would, if somebody had a particular blockage in a certain part of their range, I would work with a particular bowl and either on their body or next to their body or have them tone with that bowl to open that blockage. And my son at the time was in a national voice contest, and a week before he went to the semifinals, his voice changed. He was 12, and his voice started to drop. Each day it was dropping, and we used the bowls, and it was amazing. It helped very much, and after that I would also use bowls to help young boys as they went through their voice change. So I worked with them in that way, and never guessing that some years later, life dropped, my life changed, and I lost my son. He was 19, and music really became, and sound became the way through that grief, the way through that incredible life change that every parent just can't imagine. Mm-hmm. And so the journey of sound became something very healing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I know the journey with your son, and my sister lost her son around the same time as your son, actually, a couple years ago. I was talking to her today, and she's celebrating his birthday this Saturday. It's his 33rd birthday, if I can imagine. Wow. And so she's doing a whole ceremony and everything, which is really lovely, keeping that kind of happening. And so happy birthday, Hunter. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and yet we know that it's these things break our hearts open, and there are many reasons for why they happen. Some we learn, some we'll never know, at least in this lifetime. And so I'm grateful that you were able to do what you did. You did a beautiful, beautiful CD that I've had the pleasure of listening to, and with many songs that you essentially sing to your son, I feel like. And that's, again, one of the beautiful things about music. I do also sing. John, our engineer, has a rockin' amazing voice. I was thinking about your voice today, by the way, John, and thinking, okay, what's next about that? Because, again, it was coming to my mind. Because there are many people who have these incredible voices, and we don't always get to hear them. So, John, you're one of them. And yeah, and so the ability to be able to use music to communicate, and so for you to take sort of standards and songs from musicals and stuff like that, and sing them to your son and sort of with your son, I think is really, really, really powerful.
Thank you. I mean, what is special about that project is that and what we were talking about earlier, there's something about the high frequency and the vibrational quality of these, their quartz crystal bowls infused with gemstones. There's something about the bowls that stills the mind enough that it's just quiet and it's receiving, and the bowls drop in. We drop into our body, and as you were talking about in this kind of scrub down, the sounds and the frequency allow the gunk, or what we were talking about earlier, to be transmuted, to be released from the system. And the mind is quieted by the exquisite vibration of these crystal sounds.
Oh,
And
that.
the idea behind the CD was, because I'm coming from traditional music, was to score songs like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, to score them with crystal bowls in them and connect the songs with meditative crystal bowl interludes.
Beautiful. Well, I know that we want to actually do, I have so many things I want to talk about. I'm reading all this stuff, but I think that why don't we do a little toning, and then what I want to do, if it's okay with you, is read a little bit of a meditation or two from our dear friend Michel Pascal. He, again, talks about meditations being sort of 1 minute and just kind of moving through our lives and doing it. So shall we? Shall we join together?
Sure, I will start with
You
a
please.
black tourmaline bowl, which is absolutely for cleansing, clearing, and it's a great grounding stone and protection.
Okay. And I'm going to read about a meditation that is meditating like a mountain. We are happy to be sitting down, contemplating our image of a mountain. It is our first time to be still and remain seated quietly, looking at our mountain. The mountain does not move. Our body does not move. Our body, our mind, becomes like the mountain, without movement, without agitation. Still. We feel how it is good to be calm and to see the mountain deeply, and listen to the wind as the mountain does. We hold the image of this mountain before us, around us, through us. We start to feel the energy of the mountain. The sensation is powerful. The mountain does not move. The mountain does not think. The mountain is still. It is present. And we are present like the mountain, and seated like the mountain. We feel the presence of the mountain, the energy of the mountain. For many centuries, the mountain has not moved. It has no time. It lives in eternity. We feel deeply. We feel the mountain's stability. We feel the stability throughout our body. We visualize the mountain's energy in our body, in our mind. We embrace eternity. We feel our significant presence, our stability, our calm, our safety. No stress, no doubt, no tension. We inhale and we exhale deeply, like the mountain, giving love to all that is on the mountain, with no wish of anything back. We feed the trees. We feed the apples on the trees. We allow the trees to have the nest for the birds, the animals to run freely on our mountain. We are all giving with no thought of receiving. We just love to be the mountain. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Oh my goodness, lovely, lovely. Oh my gosh, thank you. You can continue
Yes.
doing things while we chat. If you'd like to chat while
I'm
Foojan,
just
speak.
experiencing such a quietness of the mind as you were saying it. And there's just this experience of bliss, of gratefulness and gratitude about life. And I get that right now. My mom is in Yerman and she's in a hospital. She's not doing well at all in 80s. So this concept of, looking at her and seeing who she was and who she has been, and then bringing it more into our consciousness that we only have a limited time. And within that limited time, who do we want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we want to be? And who do we want to touch and be with? I think that's something, some aspect of us that can really turn into the music, to the sound, to our soul, and create that path.
Yeah, and I love the concept of the mountain. That's why I chose that one. There are many in this book. And when I was reading about the mountain, I was thinking, how beautiful is that when one sits and feels all that power. And there's something that Dr. Sue said that I really love. I'll just kind of quote her a little bit today, which I'm doing. Step into your truth. Power comes with no extra charge.
Mm-hmm.
And with the strength of the mountain, I love the concept of the mountain because, again, what goes on that mountain? Everything, every form of life. The mountain catches the snow. The snow stays there. It turns into water and goes down the mountain, goes into the streams and goes into the rivers. The fish are there. The birds are there. Every kind of animal is there. And the mountain doesn't ask for anything back. And the mountain gives everything, the soil, the wind, the shifting, the alchemy of the snow into water. I mean, how beautiful is that? And we can be like that. So when I meditate like that, I think, oh, Sunny and God, please let me be like the mountain, to be able to be that giving and that just cool with it all.
Grand.
The sort of term of unconditional love or unconditional gratitude and all that, I feel is it's a little bit overused as words. But if we can just think of being like the mountain and all that the mountain does, and never ask for anything back, just has so much joy in everything that I just said and 1,000 things more, all the microbes happening and all the activity that goes on seamlessly, effortlessly, elegantly. John is telling us we have about 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure that people know that they can go to your website. And
Foojan.com. Foojan.com.
Beautiful. And the book is Life Reset. And guys, at this time, I know many people are having challenges in many ways. And gosh, if we can constantly reset ourselves and find the power, as Dr. Sue was saying, step into our truth, and our power will just be. Our power will just become. I'm now paraphrasing. And Jeralyn Glass, you can get at your CD on your website, right?
It'll be on CD Baby. And
Okay, I like
my
that.
website is crystalcadence.com or
Beautiful.
JeralynGlass.com.
Beautiful. And so, guys, and then I will also give some love to Michel Pascal. And so Google him. He's going to be on the show in June with Paramahansa Yogananda's grand nephew, Foojan, and that's going to be a beautiful experience. So, sort of stay tuned for that. But remember, you guys come back every Wednesday and see what we're cooking up here. One never knows. These guys didn't know what kind of magic carpet I was going to create today. And I just adore you, and I'm so happy to be safely back from Cancun. I had a little immigration stuff, but I'm back. Not for any reason other than they're just a little more careful these days. And I just love doing this show, and every week it's just going to be better and better because I seem to get cooler and cooler people all the time. So thank you, John, so much for everything that you've done today and that you always do. And Jeralyn and Foojan for being here. And you guys for showing up like you do all the time, every week. And UBN Radio, you know what to do. And you guys can even follow us on all the different things, Twitter and Facebook. And we're on iHeartRadio. And right now, our hearts are completely opening up because that's what Jeralyn's doing, and that's what I need. And again, happy birthday, Hunter, and much love to my sister Healy and her family. And to you, Jeralyn, to your heart, and to all of our hearts, and to your mom in Iran, and or as she probably would say, Persia, knowing. And until next time, guys, John says we've got to be out of here, so we're going to imagine that all that we want and wish for and desire is our tomorrow, and let us see it today, because what we see today is our tomorrow. So let's see it today by midnight. Until next time, this is Sunny tuning out for now and toning out for now. Bye-bye.